Joining me now is John Ziegler, who is an interesting cat. He is very conservative. He is very much against Donald Trump. He has written for the Daily Caller, Breitbart, but also Huffington Post and Mediaite. And now we're going to have a fascinating conversation about Joe Biden and whether he's the right candidate for the Democrats. By the way, I should also mention freespeechbroadcasting.com is where you can find John as well as a host. All right, John, welcome back, brother. How you doing?
Thanks so much for having me. This should be interesting.
Indeed. All right, my case against Joe Biden is Joe Biden. So just look at what he's done over the last week. It's been an epic disaster. So I'll let you start first. Well, what's your case for Joe Biden as the more electable candidate?
Well, first of all, I don't even like Joe Biden. I think he's a gaffe machine. I disagree with him on almost all major issues. But I think you and I share, I hope we do, a primary goal in this 2020 election, which is that the cancer that is Donald Trump be removed from the presidency of the United States. And the best metaphor I can come up with is we have a cancer, and what it appears as if at least the progressive wing of the Democratic Party wants to do is to propose a sex change operation instead of a cancer operation. And that's my biggest problem here, is I think you guys, understandably, and this is the way that liberals seem to work, they go with their feelings, they want to be excited, they want to fall in love, instead of actually getting the job done. Now, I believe that beating Donald Trump is a national imperative. It's a national emergency. And when your house is on fire and you have only one child in the house and your only child is about to burn up, when you go in to save the child, you don't stick around and try to find the money that you staved underneath the bed. You get the child and you get him out of the house. Joe Biden is the safest, most direct route to getting the child out of the burning building. And that's Joe Biden, because we already know this election is going to be decided in 4 states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Florida. And by far, especially in Pennsylvania, especially in Florida, Joe Biden does better than any of the major contenders. There's only 4 or 5 people that can win the Democratic nomination. And of those, Joe Biden is the one who most safely, most predictably defeats Donald Trump. It might not be that exciting for Democrats. It might not be good for ratings for the media, but it does get rid of Donald Trump. And to me, that's the primary purpose here.
So, John, your analogies were weird. But I'll leave them alone. So let's talk about the core of it. But you didn't state any facts there, John. So you keep saying
I got plenty of.
No, that's okay. That's why we're gonna have the conversation. You keep saying Biden is more electable, but without any evidence. So number one, the person that lost to Donald Trump was Hillary Clinton, as centrist Democrat, like Joe Biden. So why we have one incredibly important data point, which is that centrist Democrats lose to Donald Trump. So the one part we definitely agree on, and you're right about this, is that we must beat Donald Trump. So I don't want to take any chances. That's why I don't want it to be Joe Biden, because that would appear to be making the same exact mistake we made last time.
Well, I understand that, and I think you're misreading it. First of all, in 2016, we had the Russian influence, which may or may not still be in play in 2020. You also had the Comey influence, which clearly will not be in play in 2020. I think without James Comey, Hillary Clinton wins Pennsylvania, wins Wisconsin, wins Michigan, and this is a ball game. To me, so it's unfair to say that Joe Biden is exactly the same as Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton had some unique problems with regard to likability, especially in a place like Pennsylvania, which is ironic since she had Pennsylvania roots. But I believe that, and I'm someone who grew up in Pennsylvania. I know Pennsylvania exceedingly well. Pennsylvania is a place where Joe Biden is going to play a hell of a lot better than Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren or even Bernie Sanders or Pete Buttigieg. That's just the facts of it. That's just the reality. The polls show this consistently and constantly and overwhelmingly. And so if you're going to seed, tell me this, Cenk, if you're going to seed Pennsylvania and Florida, I'll give you Wisconsin and Michigan. Tell me the candidate other than Biden that wins a state other than Florida or Pennsylvania, because you need a big one. And if you don't get a big one, you're going to lose. Which is the candidate and what's the state?
Yeah, first of all, there's 2 different answers to that. First of all, almost all of them beat Trump and handily, and that's according to the polling.
That's in a popular vote. Okay. That's not electoral college.
And secondly, if you're asking who's the most electable candidate, and not based on my opinion, but based on the polling, currently Biden and Bernie Sanders are tied and both beating Donald Trump by 12 points, which is a monstrous lead. Okay, now third of all, if you get into my opinion, which is also based on the polling, but based on the polling of the issues, the Democrats stand a far better chance of winning Pennsylvania, Florida, and all those states if they actively fight for the policies that are incredibly popular. So for example, 76% of Americans want to raise taxes on the rich. Elizabeth Warren would do that, Bernie Sanders would do that. I'm not sure any of the rest of them would do that. And Medicare for all, just a new poll came out, even after all of the negative press and all the negative attention, not just from Fox News, but CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, they all crap all over it. And still, when you explain to people, yes, it'll take away your private insurance, but you will still have the same provider, it's at 56% approval. So it's actually deeply popular. You know why? Because in Pennsylvania and Florida, they're sick of low wages, they're sick of their kids not having health care, and they actually want someone to do something about it. And these candidates say, we're gonna bring you that positive change, whereas Biden says, I'm not gonna bring you any change. That's a terrible strategy.
Cenk, this is not the way modern voters actually vote. With regard to Bernie Sanders, I would venture to guess that a majority of Americans don't even know that Bernie Sanders is not a member of the Democratic Party. So you want to take a referendum on Donald Trump, which is what a 2020 election should be, a referendum on whether you want 4 more years of this insanity, and you want to take that referendum and you want to make it a referendum on socialism versus capitalism with an old Jewish guy. Good luck with that, Cenk. Good luck. There's no way that's going to work, whether it's Pennsylvania, Florida, or whatever. You're taking an easy victory, a referendum on Trump, and you're turning it into one on socialism. You are ceding the liberal progressive wing of the Democratic Party, or whatever the liberal movement you want to call it, is ceding to Donald Trump patriotism, capitalism, maleness, and whiteness. That's a recipe for winning the 2040 election, not the 2020 election. You got to wait until a lot of competent white males die, which is going to happen soon. You ought to be just patient. This strategy will work great in 2040, but it will not work great in 2020 against Donald Trump.
Yeah. So John, again, I dispute the facts. Or as you're stating them as obvious, and they are not. So let me explain. You say you want a referendum on Donald Trump, but that's exactly the campaign that Hillary Clinton ran. But it turned out it wasn't a campaign of Donald Trump versus, a blank slate. It was Donald Trump versus the establishment. And the American people were so angry, so frustrated that they said, and I remember this bumper sticker, it said, Meteor 2016. And that's exactly what they got. They got an orange flaming meteor, and they preferred that to the establishment candidate. In this case, Joe Biden is the establishment candidate. We already had that fight, and we already lost that fight. I'm never gonna make that mistake again. Whereas in the case of
enjoy the next 4 years of Donald Trump, because
John, you keep saying that, but without any facts to back it up.
I'm just warning you of what's gonna happen. No. See, you guys don't understand. I'm not asking for people to cater to never Trumpers like myself. We're 1% of the population at best. That's not it. We are people who understand Trump's appeal to middle America. We are warning you the wrong way to go about doing this. You are underestimating the problems that Hillary Clinton had as a personal candidate that Joe Biden does not have. And frankly, I hate this as a father of 2 daughters. Being a woman was one of them. For whatever reason, America does not like electing a woman president. The facts are pretty clear on that. Joe Biden is not a woman. So therefore, it is not an analogous situation to place him as the Hillary Clinton of 2016. There are some significant differences, but more importantly, who's the replacement? Who's the better path? Who is a safer path? There's nobody of those who can win the nomination that I've already mentioned. You still haven't told me which state they win other than Pennsylvania and Florida, which are off the table, in my opinion, if you don't have Biden as your candidate.
Okay, look, I'm gonna give you specific answers and then talk about, again, philosophically why you're wrong. The specific answers is Bernie Sanders is up by double digits in almost every one of the states that you mentioned. Now, you can't believe that because of your perspective.
He's not going to be the nominee.
But John, you're asking me and I'm telling you facts. I'm telling you polling. I'm telling you, you can't believe. John, listen.
Can we revisit 2016 real quick on Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders was never seriously considered by the majority of the American people because they never thought he had a shot against Hillary Clinton, and that's accurate. Therefore, they don't even know he's a socialist, and if he's the candidate, it's a referendum on socialism. And oh, by the way, Donald Trump is going to spend every single rally reading those wacky pornos essays that he wrote in the 1970s. Bernie Sanders did.
John, Donald Trump.
Have fun with that. Good luck with that.
Donald Trump sexually harasses, assaults, and rapes women. I'm not saying
it's rational. I'm telling you what's going to happen.
Okay, and John, you keep repeating things as if your perspective must be correct, but you're wrong. First of all that the media has ever talked about in regards to Bernie Sanders is socialist, socialist, socialist. And do you know that on election day, they did a poll back in 2016 of Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump. Sanders won by 12 points. So now I know they would have run a campaign. I know they would have run a campaign, but Bernie Sanders would have also been part of that campaign. He would have gotten the punch back, and he had a 12-point buffer that Hillary Clinton didn't have.
He was never seriously considered by
the American people. He was very seriously considered, and the polling indicates that. You keep telling me that the American people are wrong, but it's just not true.
And show me a poll that 90% of the American people know that Bernie Sanders is a socialist, and then I'll start listening.
That's all that anyone ever says about Bernie Sanders.
No, but that doesn't mean the American people know it. 40% of the American people pay no attention to the politics at all. Zero. They have no clue, and then they tune in a presidential election, which Bernie Sanders was not part of.
John, so last thing here as we're out of time is, look, you mentioned Bernie Sanders' Jewishness. You've talked about America's not ready for a female candidate, and you mentioned whiteness earlier. But John, I heard all of these things when I advocated for Barack Obama over Hillary Clinton. And everybody said there's no way that America is going to elect a black guy, let alone a guy named Barack Hussein Obama. And you guys were wrong about that. And I've heard all of this naysayer stuff before. But what the media is ignoring, and I think in this case you're ignoring, John, is that people actually care about the central message. And the central message that Obama had, which I think was slightly misleading in his case, was change, which is what people want. And they cared about that more than they cared about his middle name or his complexion. And in the case of Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, what they're saying is, no, we're gonna bring you a lot of change. We're gonna bring you higher wages, we're gonna bring you health care, and we're not part of the establishment that's been screwing you for 40, 50 years, and we're not this monster Donald Trump. That is a winning strategy.
Well, I'll give you this. If you can find another Barack Obama, who's an amazing orator and a tremendous campaigner, and you can put him up against McCain Palin, and you can get an economic collapse at the perfect time, you might have a shot at beating an incumbent president, Donald Trump, which John McCain was not. It's not analogous to 2020. You don't have Barack Obama. You only get one Tiger Woods. You had your Tiger Woods, and now you're about to let Donald Trump get reelected because you're looking for another once-in-a-lifetime candidate, which was Barack Obama. So good luck with that.
All right, John, last time we did a segment together, we agreed on Donald Trump, giving people a misleading impression that we agree overall. I'm glad that we have disabused people of that notion today.
I think we can accomplish that, Cenk.
All right, animated discussion. Everybody check out freespeechbroadcasting.com, and John also writes on Mediaite. Thank you for joining us, John. We appreciate it. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.